Hello everybody, welcome back to From Rhythm to Algorithm. You know what we're doing. So just picking up right where we're at, sensorality is intimate. Animate, intimate. Right, or sensorality with a C is inanimate objects. And then that would make sensorality animate objects. I even put it on the screen last episode, are objects animate? Meaning like when we say you objectify somebody, right? Is that an oxymoron to say animate objects? And is it redundant to say inanimate objects? I think so. But sensorality is intimate. Sensorality is animatality. So this is another one of these forms of word that's kind of always cumbersome. You have a word that ends in ate, you take off the E, you put on ality, and you get two A's. It's kind of like what's going on there. Synality and sorality, again, sensorality or sorsinality. Those are our two base complete general forms. But another thing I wanted to point out here is, again, I don't know what it is, the relationship, if there's more than one. But again, when we go from like synality to sorality, again, just flipping the same exact sensorality or sorsinality, but synality, when we start with sor, it only has the vowels E and A, right? Because then both of those sor and sen function as a prefix, and then you get synality and sorality. And so, again, with speciality, right, there's no O in it. And so, and then the I is only in the suffix. And so, in the same way we have special with an ITY, we get to that kind of form later on in this derivation today. But is there some, again, AE is within the first 5 letters of the English alphabet. There's something going on there? I'm not exactly sure what, but synality doesn't have an O in it, and just like the same way you don't have special, it doesn't have an O, and it doesn't even have an I in the base word. So something's going on there. Again, we went over the A and the E character thing, but definitely something's going on. What is the relationship of consistency and completeness? Right, we're talking about this consistency of sound. Objects move with rhythm. You break that rhythm, you get unique sounds. Last time we talked about popping and clicking. Right, we demonstrated that a click is not a snap. Why did it? Again, like I said, why did those words? I don't know. Again, it's in order. But like literally, when I finished speciality, I said, science team, snap your fingers. You're tensing up. You're getting close. Once that your finger effectively slides off your other finger, it produces a snapping sound. If a click, right, we have in African languages with all of these clicks in them. If you understand something, it clicks. And then the word pop came to mind. And then I thought, wait a second, you literally say it pops into your head, or this pops to mind, or it popped up. And so, right, if I think of something and it pops to my mind, I generate that information, or I generate that idea, or that proofing, or that consistency, or that acknowledgement of inconsistency. When you're in a big group of people and someone starts doing a bunch of dumb shit and you start feeling awkward, right, that's you realizing that's something originating within yourself. And it pops to mind, or it comes to mind. And so to me, the click, when you tell something to somebody else and they understand it and it clicks, that is the fundamental physical opposite of a pop, right? Pops to my mind, I explain it to you, and then it clicks, a pop to a click. And so consistency and completeness, again, you don't have completeness of R3, you have completeness of the past, right? The past is set, but then you have some sort of completeness within, again, when you're building up those one-dimensional components, two-dimensional component systems, because that's been stabilized, that's where you have completeness. And so we're structuring this whole proof, we're reducing a bunch of language, a bunch of analysis to get to this unique string of syllability to demonstrate this completeness. But completeness comes from consistency. All right, everything is connected. That is what's consistent. Sortuality, spirituality. Another remnant from last episode, getting that U in there, again, showing this complete iteration of logical exhaustion of this word family. So sortuality, spirituality, sensorality is spirited, right? And now here's an emergence of, now when you spell it spirited, S-P-I-R-I-T-E-D, right, you get right, right? Right, R-I-T-E, Right? You have copyrights, R-I-T-E, you have constitutional rights, R-I-T-E, and people still spell it R-I-G-H-T. It's definitively wrong at this point. And so if you're spirited, right, you're enthusiastic. Right? Sensuality is enthusiasticality. But spirit and right, and you get that emergence from spirited. Pop the click. But another interesting thing, we can break down pop and click a little bit more, right? Click is based on lick. Could make a bunch of jokes there, obviously. Popping, but then right, clicking, I don't think, yeah, clicking, well, you get king, right? Clicking, you get king, and popping, you get ping. And so you can break both of those words into two, right? Click, you get lick if it's just click, but then clicking, you get lick or you get king. Pop, you get pop, or I guess opping. Sounds like an opposition, they're opping. But point being is there's some sort of like analysis of reducibility of popping and clicking, but we can remove the ping. I guess you can also take off the king, but we're going with the ping off of pop ping, sensorality pings. Because remember, we're building up to one single theorem. Sensorality is pingality. Sorrel pingle. Pingle single. I'm single as the Pringle. That's kind of where that comes from. Single signal. Right? Sensorality is signality. Right? It's going to look like signality, but it's signality. Signality, sorality. Sensorality is sigality. Drop the N. Sensorality is sigillation. Sensorality singulates. Singularity, gularity. Right, again, the singularity, when people use that word all over the place in physics, it really just means the origin, the source of vibration. Right? Vibration is our singularity. The stabilization of R0 to R1 is the beginning for everything. For everybody, everywhere, anything, what is defined by the universe. So singularity is used by physicists. Again, they're not physicists, fraudsters. Is, again, at this point, you can go watch one of their videos and it's as legitimate as astronomy is now as legitimate as astrology. But regularity is regularity, right? So now we can, again, make that prefix, which is obvious linguistically, but then, what is gularity? Goration, gularity, we've been over this word a bunch, trying to find this right question to ask. Sensorality is sensationality. Sourcinality, sensorality. So again, that's senality, sourcinality, chop off the ity, and then we chop off the prefix sor, and we get sensationality. Sorality is senal, senal, regal. Sensorality is regality, regal, regular. Sensorality limits vulgarity, regular, vulgar. All right, so you might have not understood one of these steps, but just build up to say sensorality limits vulgarity. And do you change your diction around your parents versus your friends? Yes, you do. This is a fun one. So I was just listening to, I listened to a bunch of Russian music for the past couple years. Again, I just like music. There's no real point. But there's always some inherent, the sequentiality or the sereticality, the series of the sounds, is always interesting. And it's just like, I'm naturally drawn to certain ones. So I don't know what it is, but definitely Russian is my go-to language of listening right now. But you have the yor, like the yo and then ro, yor. And so I had that character popped into my head when I was listening to a song. And then so I have sensorality is yorality, Y-O-R-A-L-I-T-Y. Sensorality is loyal. Sensorality is yality. Again, yorality, clearly linguistically similar to loyalty. And now when you look at loyalty, right, what is loyalty? Well, I will support you, I am loyal to somebody, I will back them up, I have their back, I'm consistent, right? Loyalty is consistency. And so, but I just have sensorality is loyalty, right? What is loyalty? It's loyal with an ITY. And so we're getting close to that. Special, with speciality, special with an ITY. Sorrel, yoral, speciality, loyalty. Sensorality is royalty. What is royal? Royalty? It's royal with an ITY. And so, what letter comes after R? S. Sensorality is soyality. Soyality is soyal with an ITY. Doesn't really quite work for that because soyal is not really a word. But soil is, right? So now we just changed the syllability. Our sound is preserved by the pronunciation. Soil, soil. Sensorality is soil. Soil is dirt. Not here on our home soil, the great United States, where we definitely respect the Constitution. We don't respect the Constitution. Well, you guys don't. And life's a big fucking game and just run around and play games. Steal, lie, cheat, and steal. Lie, cheat, and steal. That's all you dirty fucks do. Right? Speciality is dirty. You guys are so special. Emily Real at the, which again is kind of like a word that we've derived extensively here. I'm at Johns Hopkins. Again, shout out to that butch bitch Emily Real. Riel, R-I-E-H-L. I looked up her alleged career in mathematics. She was made an associate professor in 2019 and a full professor in 2022. So her entire mathematical journey is fraudulent. So go fuck yourself, Emily. You will have criminal charges and lawsuits the instant that, again, any part of this world makes fucking sense. And you literally can't open your butch fucking mouth without demonstrating the proof that you stole. And you proudly got on stage at the National Philosophy Forum at Johns Hopkins with like 12 people in the crowd. Doesn't fucking matter. And then Alan Guth, he gets this big hamster wheel, man. It's the same fucking people. And then Alan Guth comes up and asks the panel some great deep question. You guys are all just committing fraud at the highest level, and your little bully friends that from the government or whoever's telling you guys you can't acknowledge me to any extent, they're just they're in trouble too. They're on the naughty list. But speciality is dirty. Dirt, ground. Sensorality is grounded, right? If it makes sense, they're grounded in reality. Grounded is based. Where are you based out of? I'm grounded, right? I can't go out to play because I'm grounded from my parents. I can't move. Where's your base? Where's your headquarters? But this really gets to the overall question is, again, when we talk about prime numbers, where do prime numbers come from, right? This question about this existence of irreducibility. And so when you're factoring something, what are you doing, right? You're rooting a polynomial, you're rooting a number. And so what is the motivation? Right? This is kind of like the meta mathematics, or thinking about why do you do mathematics. But remember, all of this is logical. Everything I do is proofing. And so I guess where's your origin? Where's your source? What is your root? And so I guess it's just kind of like the same way you ask like someone where are they from? It's, I guess, kind of the motivation. But I guess it's just, I can't even answer it. Like, why do we care about where people come from? It gives you like some background information. It just, right? I guess because of nurture, because you are dependent on your environment, where you're from, gives you some baseline personality traits or something. I don't know, not the point. But what we're doing here is, like I said, exponentiation way back when, like 6 months ago or, 100 episodes ago, what is the opposite of exponentiation? And then rooting is like super, super slang. It's sourcing. I think the correct ontological word for rooting a polynomial, for finding a prime number or finding roots of a number, is finding its source. Right, but that's why these words aren't random. They don't come to me in a random order. And like the next day will come by and I'm like, oh, that's why that word popped up. Like pop, nice. But rooting is sourcing. Sourcing is originating. Like, where did you originate from? What are your original base? And now we have that limit, the fundamental stability of 2. That's why you have infinitely many prime numbers. That's why you don't have any solutions for a to the n plus b to the n equals c to the n past 2. That's why 2 is the only number that raised to the same power or added to itself is the same number, exactly. That is all numeric results of the fundamental stability of 2. And so the motivation, though, is, so that's that limit. But the motivation is just, again, it's more of like the biological, when you ask somebody, where are they from? What's your name? Where are you from? It's that kind of logic applied to mathematics. Sensorality is resourceality. And again, a lot of this iteration of the C and the S jumping all over the place, I'm not really sure what's going on. Resource, recourse. So now we have a fundamental dichotomistic pair where we just iterate that C and the S, and they're exactly right. Conversation, conservation, you flip the V and the S. Recourse, resource, you flip the S and the C. So there are pronunciations preserved, our linguistics are doing some fancy jumbo magic, but nothing's fancy, nothing's complicated. We're just trying to understand what is going on. At least I am. and nobody else knows any fuck they're doing. But sensorality, recourses, right? Consequences are recourses. And so coarse is rough. Again, now we change our linguistic element, our pronunciation's preserved, and we modified the syllability, which I guess the letters, I want to say letters, they're not syllables, because syllables to me is still towards sound. So we change the letters, right? Coarse, you take a course in mathematics, or if something's really rough, right? Your rough endoplasmic reticulum is coarse, C-O-A-R-S-E. And so coarse is rough. And then finally, pristine is perfection, right? Another one of these words that's really close, right? It's very close. Pristine is prime, linguistically and semantically to the word prime. And then finally, right, multiplicity, multiplality. Sensorality is multiplality, right? Just changing the syllability of multiplicity, right? Multiplicative, multiplicality. Sensorality is multiplicality. I don't know, again, I can keep going on and on and on, and I do all day. I just write down the important steps, or at least the ones that strike me as novel enough to be more novel than all the other novel shit I do. But it felt like a lot of intuitive progress. Like I said, it feels like that every single day. Because this stabilizing theorem is not going to be a big jump. All of this progress we've made, when you look at my entire YouTube channel, all of it, all of the emails, everything, comes after the reduction of speciality. And so none of these steps would be possible to make, right? No other mathematician out there. Well, first of all, I'm the only mathematician. That's legitimate. And then two, there's not a single other researcher out there that their slow days are just lists of theorems. That is not occurring anywhere else out there. People are getting grants, and grad students who have not even successfully defended a PhD dissertation get money to sit there and attempt to think. All I do is fucking produce. I don't have constitutional rights. No one gives a shit. Here's a bunch of more free shit. See you on the next one.